This episode of Healthy Home Hacks is sponsored by the Building Biology Institute. To learn more about creating indoor environments that support health and wellness, visit their free resources at buildingbiologyinstitute.org.
How would you like to improve your health and keep your family safe? You're listening to the Healthy Home Hacks podcast, where we firmly believe enjoying optimal health shouldn't be a luxury. Healthy Home Authorities and husband and wife team Ron and Lisa will help you create a home environment that will level up your health. It's time to hear from the experts. Listen in on honest conversations and gain the best tips and advice. If you're ready to dive in and improve your well-being and increase your energy, you're in the right place. All right, here are your hosts, bowel biologists, authors, media darlings, vicarious vegans, and avocado aficionados, Ron and Lisa Barris.
Okay, 3 years ago, Lisa and I booked a national television show which records in the bright lights of New York City. And the focus of the show was how to create a healthy home. So needless to say, Lisa and I were so excited to share our message to one of the largest platforms in the world. We prepared endlessly for the piece, but before we jet set it off to the city that does not sleep, by the way, we arrived from California. We were a little bit jet lagged, but we were so pleased to look at this beautiful 5-star hotel, plush lobby, amazing staff, the works. It was incredible. All we needed was a good night sleep. So we went up to our room, we went up the elevator. We were pleasantly surprised at the accommodations, and we were ready to have the good night's sleep. We set our clock for the next day. We had to be up early around 6. Perfect timing. We're in bed at 10. We were ready for 8 hours, and we were going to deliver for this piece. But unfortunately, the good night's sleep didn't happen. And that's a perfect segue into today's conversation about creating a sleep sanctuary, because many of us are in an environment where we just can't rest. It affects our immune system. And just like this hotel room, because of a combination of reasons that I'm going to get into, it actually affected how we were sleeping. And so this room, as beautiful as it was, the back wall was adjacent to the elevator of the hotel. And it wasn't a noise issue. What it was a magnetic field issue that was bombarding us and disrupting our sleep. So needless to say, when the alarm went off at 5, we were up. I answered the phone. We're good to go. Yeah, no, we didn't sleep. And then we went straight to the actual recording studio and the audience, and we delivered a great show. That was wonderful. But boy, would it have been nice to have a good 8 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours, 1 hour. It would have been nice to have 1 hour of sleep that night, but we just didn't get it. And like I said, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about creating a sleep sanctuary where you thrive and not just survive.
Yes, and today on the show, we have Stephen Collette. He is passionate about buildings. Stephen excels at understanding how buildings work, whether they be heritage buildings or your brand new house, a stone church, or even a straw bale home, and everything in between. Stephen determines how they might be failing, such as materials, ineffective mechanical systems, or usage. He determines how the buildings could be impacting occupant health, your health, through testing and assessments for homeowners, building owners, and even insurance companies. Stephen pulls all of this knowledge together and offers solutions to make your building more resilient, more efficient, more economical to operate, and healthier for not just you, but the planet. You can find more about him at yourhealthyhouse.ca. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Well, thank you both very much for having me. I'm super excited to be hanging out.
Diving right in, what Ron sort of alluded to at the beginning is so many people are sleeping in toxic sleeping environments, and they look beautiful on the outside. They have gorgeous duvets and throw pillows and glam chandeliers and all of the things that everybody wants in their bedroom, but they're not looking at what they can't see, the things that are hurting them, the reasons that Ron and I couldn't get a wink of sleep the night before one of the biggest TV show segments that we've ever done in our life. And we want to just dive in and talk to you today about what you recommend and give us some air out the dirty laundry when it comes to the biological contaminants that are found in most bedrooms. And just to give you a little background, years ago, before I got sick from my own home, I went to an immunologist just randomly to get an environmental test. I thought, I'm sure I have none. Can you find out what you're allergic to, the environmental toxins? And I was shocked to find out that I had a major dust mite allergy, and I had a down allergy among cockroach droppings and olive trees and some other things. I was sleeping on a down pillow. I was sleeping on a down comforter. And I was literally like in this toxic brew where I would wake up every day all stuffed up and sinus, just congested. And unbeknownst to me at that time, I had no idea. And I know a lot of listeners right now are going, oh my gosh, that's me. Why am I waking up like that? And just resorting to medication to, treat a symptom and never get to the root cause.
You two are really lucky in the fact that you had a single episode that allowed you to make that connection between your sleeping time and your health and well-being. Not everyone, like you said, Lisa, has that opportunity, that they just think it's just par for the course. This is normal. This is who I am. When in fact, it doesn't have to be. And when we really think about our sleeping space, it does need to be a sanctuary, because that's where we spend most of our time within the home, before COVID, of course, but that's where we spend most of our time in that room. And we're trying to heal ourselves while we're sleeping. So this is like the priority space. You want to make your house healthy, focus on the bedroom first, for sure. The biological exposures, as you mentioned, dust mites, we don't really think about them. Some people have dust allergies and whatnot. But what happens is we're oftentimes actually allergic to the dust mite feces.
Yeah.
We're not actually allergic to the dust mite.
That sounds dirty,
Right.
Stephen. That sounds very dirty.
That sounds gross. That sounds gross.
It is. They're one of the few creatures stupider than humans, and there aren't many. But what happens is they'll actually eat molds as well and other, pathogenic things. And so their feces are mycotoxic. And so we can actually react to their feces. Now, what happens is we get in bed and they eat our skin cells and our hair and, bits and stuff like that.
It's so lovely. It's a lovely nighttime story. Yeah. Just now I lay me down to sleep,
Yes, dust mites around me to hope to eat. But they like food, water, and a warm place to party, just like the rest of us. And so we give it those ideal conditions in bed. And then what we do next is in the morning, we get out of bed. And the very first thing we do is we tuck those bugs in for the rest of the day to keep that moisture and warmth in there as long as possible. Now, those dust mites are actually partying in your bed without you. And that's
fair.
Not really fair.
No.
So what we want to do to reduce the dust mite population, we can't manage the food, right? That's, your skin cells. And, without wearing a Tyvek suit to bed or something weirder than that, we can't do anything. But we can manage the moisture. And so in the morning, we actually want to do what nanas or omas used to do, is air the bed out.
Mm-hmm.
And so pull the covers back, turn the fan on, open the windows. And if you have some Eastern European grandmother, you'd take the bedding out and hang it over the balcony and get some fresh air.
Well, hey, Stephen, you do not make your bed.
Exactly.
Whoa! That's your secret?
Yes, this goes over great with teenagers, really, really well.
Sure. Millennials love it. I did read a study from, I think it was Kingston University in the UK, and they found that an unmade bed attracts less dust mites. Now, what do you say? Don't make your bed every day, or just air it out a couple times a week? Or what do you think is best in that regard?
Yeah, well, we're going to have some type A OCD listeners to the podcast. So, we have to let them make the bed. What I recommend is making the bed after breakfast or, after your morning routine. Give it as much time as you can to air it out, to get that moisture out. Mm-hmm. And then once it's dried up, then, make the bed and put all 27 pillows in the right order on top of it.
You are definitely married. I
so
love
that's
that.
a really healthy way.
It's interesting because if you see a picture of a dust mite, they look like little alien beings. They're very creepy. But of course, we don't feel them. We don't see them. We don't smell them. We don't know they're there. And you're never going to eliminate them completely, right? But the goal is just to reduce the amount.
Right. And so the airing the bed out costs you absolutely nothing. And so that's the easiest solution. The next we would look at would be your pillows. And one study years ago, University of Manchester looked at dust mites in pillows, foam-based pillows. And after 10 years, they were half original material and half dust mite and dust mite feces, which is, again, super gross.
Yeah, really nasty.
So switching pillows out periodically, definitely washing them. High temperatures and ultraviolet kills dust mites, because those alien creatures, as you described them, they totally look like that.
Yeah.
They're actually totally UV sensitive. So if you put them out in the sunshine, you'll actually boil the little creatures and they'll die. So put your pillows out, put your sheets out, and, drag the mattress out once a year, put it outside, give the neighbors something to talk about, and you're going to have a really healthy bed, and you haven't spent any money.
So, Stephen, our mattress is really heavy. I don't think that's going to happen for us all the time.
We have an organic mattress. we have one of those organic mattresses with no metal. It takes 4 large men just to flip it. Needless to say, we haven't flipped it in a while. You have to have people come to your house to do it. But the other thing, I love that. And, if you can't take your mattress outside, like you said, open those windows, let the sunlight hit your mattress. Another thing, which I'm sure you recommend, and I've heard, is putting your pillow in the dryer occasionally, and high heat will kill those dust mites.
To your point, we can get pillows that are less allergenic. So the dust mites do seem to like the petroleum-based foam pillows. So we'd like to avoid those, unfortunately. Down or feather pillows can be, for some people, not you and not many people with down sensitivities, can be healthier. But actually natural latex, like your mattress and my mattress, a natural latex foam not made from petroleum, and wool, dust mites don't like those as much.
Right.
And so we can have healthier materials, bamboos, natural organic cottons on the sheets. So we can make some purchases and spend some money, but always do the free stuff first. As far as changing pillows and stuff, if you're laundering them, if you're putting them outside in the sunshine for ultraviolet or high heat in the dryer, every few years you should definitely switch them out.
Putting you on the spot here, but ultraviolet, and obviously there's natural ways to do that, like you just mentioned. But do you know of any products out there? And if you don't, that's fine. But I know there's some new innovative things that are out there for people who don't want to lift their 500-pound mattress. Of anything like that you can talk about?
Well, I would definitely start with a good solid vacuum. Like, get up on top of the bed, take everything off, and just have at it with a vacuum cleaner. So I would go with that. As far as like a UV light or something, certainly they can be really damaging to your eyes. So you want to be really cautious about what you're using. I don't know of any products offhand.
I put you on the spot there. I've heard of some products that are now on the marketplace that are being used for those very reasons, right?
Yeah, the wands where you can do that. But I kind of agree with you. Good old fashioned cleaning, airing out, and vacuuming, and get that and just see how much better you feel and sleep. I mean, going back to our, we were at a 5-star hotel, but oh my God, I mean, how often do they change the pillows? We don't want to know,
Yeah. Stephen, do you have pets by chance? Do you have a dog or cat?
I do have a black lab. My wife was raised with black labs, and we've been married 21 years now. It took 15 to wear me down.
Stephen, take it from me. Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. Yes. That's right.
Congratulations. That's good. 21 years. Good job.
Definitely you want to keep the pets out of the bedroom.
Oh, thank you. People do not like to hear that. They get mad.
Well, it's a real sensitive topic, because for many people, the pets are family members, and I totally understand that. But they are bringing a huge allergen load, that dander load, into the bedroom, and we just don't need any more allergens in there. So I don't recommend it. That's a tough one. Not everyone's going to do that. And as with any recommendation, we make, it has to fit within people's lifestyles. If it makes sense and you're willing to adapt, awesome. If you're not, you accept it as an educated decision.
Waking up with the allergies. I know I went through it. I know so many people do. And instead of just reaching for the closest allergy medicine, think about your environment. Think about, what is it? These points that Stephen just made, can I start to implement some of those right now and see if I feel better? Gosh, maybe I don't need that drug. Maybe it's just a simple change. And going back to allergy covers, would you recommend those for pillows and mattresses? And do you have a brand or a type or anything like that?
Yeah, I think they can be helpful. I'm always concerned about what's in them. We want to make sure that there's not some chemicals in them that are going to negatively impact you. The natural latex, you can get natural latex toppers, you can get wool toppers for your bed. Both of those are really hypoallergenic. So I would always lean towards more natural solutions. But make sure when you're looking at it for those with severe allergies to dust mites, you want to manage the dust first and then think about those controls after.
Yeah, good point. I know there are a lot of plastic covers, covers that are treated with antimicrobial, like microban and things like that, that are just going to off gas. The plastic's going to off gas VOCs, and then you're going to be getting like more chemicals. So the key here is to go natural and not be adding more chemicals into your such a sensitive environment, your sleep environment, the place where you need to heal.
Yeah. And so what's interesting when we talk about these natural solutions, the ultraviolet, the sunshine, really recent research has shown that daylight, even through our windows with whatever glazings and coatings we have on them, daylight in our homes actually reduces the bacterial population in the air. Mm-hmm. So for those, angst-ridden teenagers who may have a lot of dark curtains and not letting the light in, you actually really need to let the light in, and that'll actually help improve even the bacterial population exposures in your home.
That's great. Open those windows. What about mold in the bedroom? Do you think that's a problem?
It's typically not a huge problem because we don't have a lot of water in there, right? We need food, water, and a warm place. We can get some molds in some older homes who have maybe in the temperate and the colder climates, or the damp climates where we get condensation. So behind a big dresser or behind the big bed where there's no airflow on an exterior wall, the bed acts as insulation, right? You may have R20 in your walls, but the bed acts like R400. And so we can get the dew point condensation to happen on the bedroom wall.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, can you kind of go over that again? Because you mentioned the numbers, right? And to the listeners who have never heard of R400 or, that sort of thing.
Sure. So the insulation value of your walls. So just think about your walls as somewhere within, for those in a colder climate. In the wintertime, it's like a trip to Florida for me. On one side, it's 20 degrees Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. On the other side, it's minus 20 Celsius, which translates into really stupendously cold in Fahrenheit. And so somewhere in there, we get freezing. Somewhere in there, we get condensation where water turns to a liquid. And that happens in our wall, and that's okay. But when we put all this insulation inside as like a closet with all our clothes on an exterior wall, or as a bed up against an exterior wall, we could get that freezing and that condensation to happen actually where we don't want it. And that could lead to some dampness with the dust, which we could lead to mold.
Yeah, we've encountered several people who had mold problems in their master bedroom closets where the mold was growing in their shoes. And it's so bizarre, but it's a dark, damp space that, is like, hey, come live in here.
So what happens is the molds are actually eating the starches and sugars that we sweat, right? So we're putting some sugars and stuff in there. But it's also the leather is very porous. And so there's lots of pockets for the dust to sit in. And the closet gets damp because some people, you put your dirty clothes in there and it doesn't get a lot of air exchange and the doors are closed. Yeah. And that's why grandmas used to use mothballs. It's because grandma's house didn't have insulation. And the only insulation in grandma's house was all her clothes in the closet. And so it would get damp behind her clothes. So she would use mothballs. But
I never knew that.
The moths loved the moisture on the wool.
Grandma was so smart. Well, okay.
Grandma, so we should have listened to her more. She knows everything.
So Stephen, so what you can't see can hurt you. We've talked about some biological contaminants in the bedroom.
Yep.
Is there anything from a chemical perspective that's maybe off-gassing that we should be aware of from common things that are found in our bedroom?
Yeah. So a lot of cleaning products. So the largest exposure from a chemical is actually your laundry soaps, because that's a 24-hour exposure. It's on our clothes, it's on our sheets, it's on our pajamas, it's on everything. And so thinking about some of the hormone disruptors and endocrine disruptors that are unfortunately in some consumer goods, we really want to think about using more natural-based cleaning soaps, laundry soaps. When we used to all of us were mostly farmers and working in industrial situations and really filthy and dirty, we needed really robust cleaners. And those cleaners are. In the 21st century, most of us are working in urban environments. We're not as hard on our clothes as we used to. Now, we did cotton diapers with our kids, and we use natural laundry soaps.
Did you really? Wow, you survived? Yeah. You survived to tell the story? Oh my God.
Still smiling.
He's smiling.
They're teenagers now, so it's a distant memory, luckily.
How much less exposure to, now we're going down a diaper trail here, but the chlorine bleach and all of the toxins in diapers, let alone the plastic.
Yeah.
The ridiculous amount of what is it? The average baby goes through how many diapers in their lifetime? I forget, but then diapers can take 1,000 years to biodegrade, like a single diaper. So
it's really tough. And we're grateful that we had the opportunity to be able to do that. And I respect that not everyone can. So where possible, we all can make choices, little choices to help make a difference for our family's health and the environmental health at the same time. And they always go hand in hand. Back with the chemicals, to Ron's question, we're really finding some of the more recent research is looking at what's in dust. So we have this sense of dust is just it's dust. Actually, there's a lot going on in there. And we're realizing there's actually a tremendous amount of chemicals, more than anyone actually thought. And they're coming from consumer products. They're coming from the building products as well. And the exposures for the kids is really, really high. Now, we get exposed to dust in our bedroom from one major source, and that's actually under your bed. Because how often have you moved that 500-pound mattress to vacuum really well under your bed?
Hey, Stephen, you're getting personal.
But this is super normal. And when we think about bedrooms with carpets, that holds a tremendous amount of dust. And the only way it gets stirred underneath that bed is when the cat crawls under there. So it's a lot of exposure.
He reached under to get his toy. Yeah, it's crazy. We have a bed, obviously, with an open air, which everybody should have an open air space under it. So for the airflow, but there's a lot of people, and especially these IKEA type beds, they are literally on the ground. There's no space under them for the airflow. And the slats, like our mattress is on a every 2-inch slat system, which allows the airflow to go through. But you think about how many people are on those flat type, plywood type boards where the mattress just sits on it and there's no airflow to come in and around that mattress. And it's creates a breeding ground for all this stuff.
For sure. The mattress absolutely needs the air. It doesn't need a box spring. It's a long
I know. Are we going to get rid of those?
I know.
What do they do? I don't feel like they really help. They just make it higher.
There was a historical precedence as to why they came into being, and it was about money, but there's no real reason for sure.
That's interesting.
Is it a short story? Tell us, Stephen.
It basically, there was some iron people and the steel people, and everyone was complaining about this and that. And box springs were created as a byproduct of framing and keeping everybody employed.
How to use all the leftover material, maybe, huh?
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
So the wooden slats, airing it out. Definitely the mattress does need to dry. You're absolutely correct. And then, unfortunately, but it's under that bed that there's a lot of dust because we simply can't access it. And when we have carpets underneath there, even if it's an area rug, it's really difficult to clean. So carpets need to be cleaned really effectively. Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation recommends we vacuum carpets aggressively. And they define this as 10 minutes per square meter or a minute per square foot.
Wow.
Go Canada. Go Canada. Stephen's from Canada, in case you didn't hear the out. How do you say it?
But is that where box springs are from? Canada? No.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, people are not doing that. They're not doing that in America.
Nobody's vacuuming. That's insane. And that's the point, is that unfortunately the carpet holds a lot of dust in really fine, ultrafine particulate. In a solid surface, we get dust bunnies, and that's actually healthier because it's too heavy to become aerosolized.
Yeah.
So under the beds where we can't vacuum very effectively, this creates a huge dust load, and that's a respiratory irritant for sure.
Yeah. Going back to that point about the dust and what's in it, I do remember that study. It was George Washington University and University of San Francisco and one other university, and they found the average dust in the average home that they tested had 45 toxic chemicals. One of them was the carcinogen. And it's like you said, the plasticizers, the flame retardants, things that people think are just in their plastic container. They're not thinking that these chemicals are becoming airborne and volatile and getting into the dust. And it's so toxic. And people, that was the first study they ever did on dust, to say, gosh, dust isn't just annoying, it's toxic. Like it's, people are like, oh, you're anal if you clean a lot. No, it's good for your health to be keeping that dust at bay.
So while we're thinking about the chemicals, we want to make sure that we're using more natural-based cleaning products, soap and water, baking soda, vinegar, lemon juice. We really don't need much more than that within our homes. And to keep the bedroom as chemical-free as much as possible, even candles, things like that, those kind of chemicals, those scented products that we plug into the outlets, it's a lot of chemicals being volatilized, petroleum-based ones. So just kind of really scaling back. Yeah, so candles, we pull oil out of the oil sands, or wherever they come from, and we put it into settling tanks, and the fuel oil in the bottom and the petroleum, the fuel grade in the middle, and the pond scum that floats to the top is paraffin.
God.
And so we scrape it off and we pour it into little round molds, and then we add more petroleum, so it's blue and green and red and yellow, and we add unstable petroleums, VOCs, volatile organic compounds, so it smells like chocolate mountain dewberry spring April rain fresh. And we put a wick in it that's sometimes dipped in lead, and then we light it, right? And so,
it's romantic, and it's
I mean, are you a candle maker? It sounded like you went through this process before.
No, I'm not a candle maker, but I do recommend like beeswax, which is lovely. It has a beautiful smell of honey, makes me hungry. They last longer for power outages. And so those are really, really healthy solutions and alternatives that they cost a little more, but they last longer. So from a price point, they're great.
They're great. I totally agree. The beeswax candles and the synthetic fragrances in the candles are incredibly ridiculous. You can use essential oils instead of synthetic fragrances that aren't going to cause harm, that are actually going to smell better. Now, yes, you were right. You are going to pay a little more, but this is your health we're talking about. It either don't light the candle or light a healthy one, or get an unscented one, because those scents are so nauseating. And we've got so much fragrance sensitivity in the world because, like you said, the endocrine disruptors that are in these fragrances are pretty prevalent. People are starting to wake up and become aware to that. But it's really funny talking about this bedroom, the room that's like the romance and all of this. And it's we got mold and bacteria and dust mites and petroleum. And
a funny story about candles. So I was doing a healthy house inspection, and this lovely couple, and it turned out she was a candle distributor. And I opened this closet door, and it was just full of these petroleum candles, and like all these chemicals you're talking about, Lisa, they just hit me. Ugh. And my eyes start watering. I get like brain fog, and I turn around and I just like kind of laid into her about the toxicity, right? And then I was like, oh, I'm not going to get paid now.
I better just like for the car.
And he paid me in cash. He was like, that was the best ever.
Really? I love it. He was open to being better and learning. And even like, I know that. And even if I see a candle at a store, especially women, the first thing we do is we pick it up and we smell it. Ooh, how does it smell? How does it smell? And it's okay. We want things to smell good, but look for those, 100% scented with essential oil. Because what marketers will do is they'll say made with essential oils, and they'll put like 2% in there. So you have to be careful of that, the labeling, because there's really no laws with candles. They're labeling and regulations and things like that. So I love it. So, and then for laundry, what do you recommend? Do you have a do-it-yourself recipe? Do you have a brand, or anything that you recommend people look for? Third-party certifications?
If you're willing to eat your cleaning products, that's a really good baseline to start.
Okay.
I do the laundry in our home, and I have a variety over the years of different ones we've tried and what we like. laundry soap is a chemistry with the soap as a surfactant, the water quality, and your washing machine. And those are really variable. So some natural laundry soaps may not do great with one of those parameters where you
true.
are. Seventh generation, Nature's Clean, Ecos, eCover. We're using the pink solution, so coconut based. Sally's soaps. There's lots of really great stuff out there. Ask your local, health food store or, natural food supplies, and even some of the larger stores carry them, but at least you can talk to your local health food store because you'll be able to talk to a person. Hey, I'm outside of town. I'm on a well, or hey, I'm in town. What do you think makes the best chemistry? And just don't buy large quantities of it. Make sure you're buying small quantities to just make sure it does work effectively for you.
We just finally upgraded our washer and dryer, and we noticed the same thing. We always use a plant-based laundry detergent, usually unscented or with an essential oil. But with the new washer, the high efficiency washer, it changed the cleaning. And we've noticed exactly what you said. Like we have to change our detergent. It's not working like it did on the other one. And, going back to the sheets, a lot of people think if they use a natural material, say cotton, that the sheets are healthy, and they don't think about the pesticide exposure from, say, cotton, because cotton is a crop and it's heavily sprayed. So give us some materials that you recommend for linens.
If you can afford organic sheets, that's awesome. So I do recommend those just because from a cotton, as you said, a lot less pesticides. Then maybe some bamboos or rayons, certainly silks. Now, there are chemicals used in those processes. They're different than the pesticides, and some people may be sensitive to those. For those cold climate people, flannel sheets actually have less chemicals in them than regular cotton just because of how it's processed.
Yeah.
So, but whatever you buy, wash it first. Because we want to take out the sizing. Used to be starch, whether it be our shirts or whether it be our sheets, but now formaldehyde is a standard additive to a lot of fabrics. So you want to really wash it first and try to get the chemicals out.
Yeah, great point. And formaldehyde, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a carcinogen. It was used in the Egyptian embalming to preserve these bodies. So if you're sleeping in sheets treated with formaldehyde and it's touching your largest organ, your skin, I don't think you want that. So great tip to wash.
Just like the pesticides too. That's why we want to avoid that too. Cotton is a crop. Yeah,
cotton is a crop.
Think of that going on their skin and absorbing that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we talked about vacuuming. Obviously, if you're remodeling or moving, you want to try to get hard surfaces in your bedroom. We have carpet. Our house is mostly hard surface, but our bedroom, it's just so standard, as you know, here, especially in building, always put carpet in the master or the bedrooms. What do you recommend for vacuum? Anything specific? Any type?
As you said, I agree. Solid surface over carpet. So basically, the low-hanging fruit is vacuum more often, right? With whatever vacuum you have. Open a window while you're doing it because you will stir a lot of dust up. A better vacuum is going to be a HEPA, high efficiency particulate arrestor, and that's going to capture the smallest of the small. So a HEPA vacuum is a really great investment if you have carpets. Now, when you start looking online, you'll see kind of HEPA, sort of HEPA, almost HEPA, HEPA-like.
Right, HEPA-like.
True HEPA. I've seen HEPA-like. I really have. A true HEPA. And you can find some inexpensive brands like Dyson, a really common brand. And then you can find some really high quality brands like Miele or Bosch. The difference between a $150 HEPA vacuum and a $1,000 HEPA vacuum is the $150 one has a bunch of the air go through the HEPA filter. The $1,000 one has all the air go through the filter. You're paying for gaskets and seals. And based on your budget and number of carpets, both are excellent. Obviously, the more air filtration, the better. But pick what you want. And then down the road, where possible, sort of the low, medium, and high, the high would be to pull the carpet out and then maybe put down some cork. So a nice, warm feeling floor. There's some cushion to it. You've got some beautiful colors. And so you get that warmth and cushion that we want out of carpet while still being a solid surface.
Yeah, cork's renewable, and you get some sound insulation with the cork. So that's a really good material for your bedroom, right? And now, like you said, with vacuums, I would say the same thing with air purifiers. Well, you get what you pay for. Ron and I have tested so many name brands and kind of came to the conclusion that you really do get what you pay for. That good air purifier in your bedroom is going to actually absorb 99.9, depending on what your unit, percent of those airborne particles. So it's such a good investment.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're a great idea. We want to actually manage the source first and then whatever. So we contain, control, and then we clean. We always want to do
I love it. Contain,
control,
control,
then clean, right? So
I love it.
Now, for those in a rental situation, for those who don't have controls, the capacity to, tear out your forced air furnace and air conditioning or whatever the case may be, we can't change the carpets for whatever reason. Air filters are an excellent idea. We want to make sure we got HEPA in there to capture the smallest particles. We want to make sure we have carbon in there to help remove the chemicals and VOCs from the air. Absolutely great idea. And I agree, as much money as you can afford because you'll benefit from it.
Yeah, it's a gift to yourself, right? It's a gift to yourself and to your family and to your health.
It really is. So, Stephen, you're a Building Biology Institute educator. And as part of that curriculum, you are an expert on electromagnetic radiation and how it affects us, not only in our home, but specifically for this podcast and this conversation in the bedroom. Are you able to talk about that? In fact, I'm going to put you to the test here. I know because I'm a building biologist as well. There are principles. There's 25 principles, right? I'm going to read number 7, which you should know by heart. Do you excited, or
you won't put you on the
read
spot
every night before bed?
Okay, good.
Say your bedtime principles.
Pledge allegiance. Doesn't matter which country. We all read it. We have to just do it, right? That's how we roll. So, number 7, we have to adopt appropriate strategies to minimize exposure to harmful electromagnetic radiation generated as a result of building electrification.
Yes.
So can you tell the listeners what that means and how you do that for your home so we can do the same thing?
Yeah, let's put it down into normal human speak instead of nerd speak. For those who vaguely remember high school physics, we did some electricity. And there was this rule about when there's presence of electricity on a wire, it generates a field. And when there's a flow, there was another field. And there was this left hand and right hand rule. And I remember, in high school pointing at myself with these little finger guns, trying to figure it all out.
I was not in that class. I was in drama.
And so electricity generates electric fields and magnetic fields. And these fields can impact us because we are bioelectric creatures. We simply don't operate on 120 hertz, pardon me. And so these exposures can mess up our wiring. And typically in a new house wiring, the wiring is grounded. So we have 3 wires. We have a hot and a neutral and a ground. And basically the ground captures all those fields, which is awesome. When it's all wired up properly, that's great. The challenge is once we plug something in that only has 2 wires, like our lamp and our clock and our phone charger and our DVD player and the TV, et cetera, these exposures create really high fields around our beds and even higher for those who use like electric blankets. And so the solution to pollution is dilution, a classic one. That's not.
You got to repeat that.
It again. That was really good.
That was a good one. The solution to pollution is dilution.
Now, it's not always the case, but it's close enough for today. So the more we can reduce our electrical exposures from these fields by having less electrical things around our bed, the better health we have. So getting rid of the electric clock and maybe going to a battery or putting it on the dresser, which means you have to get out of bed to turn it off, which could be helpful. Just getting all that electronics out of our bedrooms can make a huge impact, as you experienced in the hotel, right? At the beginning of the podcast, talking about that vibration and the fields coming off of the wiring right behind your head.
And hotels are insane. I mean, when you think of you look behind the bed in the hotels today, it's like wiring explosion. I mean, there's so many wires and cords and lamps and clocks and computer and book. And then you have, if you're near an elevator, in our case, which you've got these magnetic fields on top of your electric fields, and then you've got the Wi-Fi in the hotel. So it's just, I don't know how anyone sleeps in a hotel. I don't. I'm super sensitive because we've created a sleep sanctuary. We use a battery alarm clock and all that good stuff. Yep. Do you feel like that when you travel? Like, are you extra sensitive because you are so healthy at your home? Do you feel extra sensitive to it?
Yeah, sometimes it can be. And my wife's been sensitive to mold and chemicals. I had exposures to chemicals. So those are kind of always the first triggers for us. And anything after that is, just adding to the strain for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point with the hotel rooms, the toxic cleaning products, the poor indoor air. You can't open the windows in most rooms. Yeah. And then you've got, you're just in a toxic soup. So
So with the electrical, some people may have 2-wire wiring in their house because it just happens to be old enough. We're not tearing out the wiring. That's not, a weekend project. But what we can do is step one, minimize the amount of things you've got in your bedroom. Just get rid of all the electrical stuff. You don't need it. You're trying to sleep. And all those, the blue screens and the screens and all that, the blue light keeps us awake anyway. Secondly, put everything on a power bar that's grounded, right? A 3-prong power bar, and then tie all your cords really tight. And that'll reduce some of those frequencies of the stuff that you have left over in the bedroom. All right. So that's the low frequency stuff, the wiring in the house. When we think about the high frequencies, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the smartphone, all that kind of stuff, turn everything off, including your router, which, there's people clenching with their ear pods right now as they're listening to this. I couldn't possibly fathom turning the router off. Now, I found a really great router, and I have no affiliation with them, but it's called JRS Eco, and I actually came from the Netherlands. And this great router, it still has Wi-Fi because we are 21st century. We have everything as much as possible hardwired here. But what this does is it recognizes the logged in appliances, the phone, all the gadgets, right? That do use Wi-Fi. And at nighttime, when everything's off, it actually shuts the Wi-Fi off. And super cool. And as soon as you turn a phone on, it comes back on.
So it's like a demand switch built into the router.
That's exactly it. And you can throttle it so it doesn't cycle as often, so it's not looking for appliances. And the other thing is you can actually dial down its intensity so that you could only get Wi-Fi like 10 feet away at most. Or
oh my gosh, that's great.
So the kids' bedrooms have really poor quality Wi-Fi.
Nice.
Just an accident.
Hey, what's the price point, Stephen? I know you're Canadian, so if you can speak in US dollars.
I think it was around 300 Canadian, so probably like 250 or something like that. They had a couple different price point options. They had a few different routers, and basically it's a regular router off the shelf, but this great guy has created a software that goes into it. It's
really amazing. Hardwiring is the other option.
Hardwired. So as much as you can, and get the cordless phone out of the bedroom. You don't need a cordless phone in the bedroom.
I know.
You don't. So get rid of it.
That was one of the first things Ron and I did when we started learning about all of this electromagnetic radiation. Ron was working next to a cordless phone all day, and we got the RF analyzer or the RF detector, and we did a test, and we were shocked, like the pulses that it's just constantly giving off. And that's like zapping your body. I mean, your cellular communication is just like under so much stress when that is on next to you all the time. So
which affects your immune system, your sleeping patterns, all those things that are important, right? It's all about making sure that you're ready and recouped for the next day. So
right.
And the blue light's gonna like super hard on your sleep patterns, right? So just that screen time's messing with you. So
then we wonder why so many people are on sleeping medication. They're not sleeping, and so hopefully you listeners are having some light bulbs go off. Ron, myself, and our guest, Stephen Collette, today are all BBECs. We're Building Biology Environmental Consultants. And Building Biology Institute is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to the holistic science that you can embrace in their seminars, their courses. Stephen is an instructor. They have certification programs, and you can go to their website to find fact sheets, videos to help you design, build, and remediate health-supporting structures that are in harmony with planetary ecology. We love the Building Biology Institute.
Absolutely. And to find out more and to become a member, go to buildingbiologyinstitute.org. So once again, buildingbiologyinstitute.org.
Love it. We're talking about kids. You have 2 teenage girls, and I'm sure they're on their cell phones all of the time, like most teenagers. So what would you say about, creating their rooms? Are your daughters pretty good at turning off their phone or putting it on airplane mode, or what kind of things can kids do to create safer environments, or parents do to help their kids?
We're really grateful. We have lovely kids. They must get it all from their mom. I think for the kids, it's about that education. We have to lead by example. And cell phones, for example, are absolutely an addiction. There's no arguing that. And by taking that time to just, decompress, to put them down, to do stuff like gardening, a lot of people gardening now, to just be family, this time of this pandemic has allowed us and a lot of families to actually just reconnect, right? We're not rushing around and we're actually talking to each other and doing family things. And I think that's really helpful. And I think as much as possible, there's a limit, after 8:00 or 9:00, depending on the age of the kids, no more technology. You're done. You got to wind down your body, not allowed in the bedroom. We have a charging stand in the kitchen. All the phones go there, and that's where they stay all night, keeping the laptops out, of the bedroom after certain hours. So yeah, it's hard, and oh my goodness, and woe is me, and my friends hate me. We're really lucky. We are really lucky because we lead by example. At 5:00, the computers go off, and we just try to, spend that time together and doing other activities. So,
and maybe they're influencing their friends too by seeing, right?
Yeah.
Being a good example.
Lead by example is critical.
Yeah. I love how you said education, because I think that a lot of, be it teens or millennials or whoever, understand why this is so important. I think it's a no-brainer to make better decisions about, reducing your use of your cell phone, putting on an airplane mode, turning it off. You don't need to have it on 24 hours a day. It's very emotionally draining too, to have that constant just attachment to just constant news and reaction. And I find a digital detox is good to do whenever you can. Just take a break from all of that and let your mind have its own thoughts, and process. Were you and your wife into this when your girls were babies? Did you do special things for their nursery when they were little, or did you learn about this after that?
Yeah, when our first one was born, the reason we got into this, I got into building biology. I was building straw bale homes and thought I knew everything about healthy and green and natural. And we were renting an old century home, 100-year-old home. And it turned out it had mold in it. We were unaware. My wife had really severe headaches every day. My daughter had really terrible eczema, and she was less than a year. And the doctor was talking about antibiotics. And we were like, oh my goodness, she was a home birth. It wasn't on our radar.
Wow.
And we went away for 10 days and they both got better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, it was the house. We came back. My wife got a headache right away. And I realized, I'm building healthy houses and I didn't even understand it. Mm-hmm. So that's when I got into building biology. It helped my family. Mm-hmm. I'm eternally grateful. Mm-hmm. And I don't want anyone to go through what we went through. And that's why I'm absolutely passionate about creating healthy spaces for kids and for families.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. We feel the same way. I got sick from toxins in a newly remodeled home. And I found about biology through a natural building magazine.
Yeah.
Reading magazines anymore.
Yeah.
Not to date myself, but, and it changed my life. It changed my life. And Ron and I committed to, dedicating our life and our business to helping other people too. So, and I know babies, there was an ABC segment years ago on Good Morning America, and they partnered with the Green Guard Environmental Institute and tested a brand new nursery and said, hey, let's see, what does the average nursery have today? And they found 300 chemicals. That would be hey, mom and dad are going out, they're buying a crib, painting the room, carpet, whatever. And it was just average. That was just an average nursery. So kids are already coming into the world pre-polluted. We know their umbilical cord has 287 chemicals already when they're born, the average American now, and then you put them in this toxic room. So all these things that Stephen's sharing today are so, so, so important. Even if you're just taking baby steps, try to do one thing at a time. I know we covered a lot of ground, and it can be overwhelming. So try to take one little step today, and then the next step and the next step. And pretty soon you'll have the sleep sanctuary.
So Stephen, where can we find more information about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I really appreciate it. My website is yourhealthyhouse.ca. I am in Canada, so .ca, Your Healthy House. On there, I've got articles I've written. There's videos. There's links to all my podcasts. There is a ton of free information. And for sure, you can check out my podcast wherever you get podcasts. And that's also called Your Healthy House.
And for people in Canada, do you do home inspections in your area?
I do building biology, healthy house inspections. I work all over North America. I'm very grateful. And I can consult remotely as well. And there's all that information's on my website. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really grateful.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. You gave so many good free tactical tips. I hope you guys are inspired, and we loved having you. We cannot wait to see you next week. Please tune in so we can teach you more information on how to create a healthy home sanctuary.
This episode of the Healthy Home Hacks podcast has ended. But be sure to subscribe for more healthy living strategies and tactics to help you create the healthy home you've always dreamed of. And don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best content. See you on the next episode.